Unfortunately, I'm sad to tell you, to confirm, at least at this moment in time, there are 26 lives that have been lost.
You can't explain it. Your mind doesn't want to grasp it, you know, the shock of it.
Through the tears and through the sadness, we stand strong, oh so strong.
At least 26 people were killed, ranging in age from 72 years old to just 5 years old in a shooting at a church in Texas. Good evening, and thank you for staying up late with us. I'm Kayla Binette. The shooting was at First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, just 40 miles outside of San Antonio. Police believe a lone gunman was responsible, and they say that suspect is also dead. CBS News' Courtney Zubowski is in Sutherland Springs with the very latest.
Investigators say Devin Kelly walked into this church wearing all black and wearing tactical gear. He ended up shooting nearly everyone inside. Between 40 and 50 people were attending Sunday services at the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs. At about 11:15 a.m., witnesses say a single man with a gun walked in and opened fire on the congregation.
He's a young white male, maybe in his early 20s. He was dressed in all black.
Some 4 people were wounded, more than half of them fatally.
At least at this moment in time, there are 26 lives that have been lost.
The gunman fled the scene in a vehicle, pursued by a private citizen armed with a rifle. After driving north for some time, the suspect's SUV left the road and came to a halt in a field. Police arrived to find the man dead inside it.
At this time, we don't know if it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound or if he was shot by our local resident.
The suspect was later identified as 26-year-old Devin Patrick Kelly. Investigators say they have no idea what may have prompted this rampage.
If you came here wanting to know the motive behind this shooting, you're going to leave here disappointed.
The incident prompted a massive response from local, state, and even federal law enforcement agencies. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are among those who've joined the investigation. Sutherland Springs is about 35 miles east of San Antonio. On Sunday, one person described it as the kind of place where everybody knows everybody, including the people who were killed. As the investigation continues, about 20 people are recovering from their injuries in hospitals, many of them in San Antonio. In Sutherland Springs, Texas, Courtney Zubowski, now back to you.
All right, thanks, Courtney. Well, several politicians have voiced their opinions about the shooting on social media. President Donald Trump, who is currently taking his first trip to Asia, tweeted out, quote, "May God be with the people of Sutherland Springs. The FBI and law enforcement are on the scene. I am monitoring the situation from Japan." South Carolina Senators Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham also weighed in on the attack. Scott says, "Grieving for Sutherland Springs, our whole nation is here to support you. Houses of worship should be sanctuaries. Heartbreaking." Senator Graham tweeted out, "Heartbreaking news out of Texas. Our thoughts and prayers are with Sutherland Springs." And Columbia's Mayor Steve Benjamin also expressed his solidarity with the victims. He tweeted out, "Our prayers from the Columbia family to the families to First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas. The evil acts must stop." Unfortunately, the Palmetto State is no stranger to violence in churches. Just more than 2 years ago, 9 people, including Pastor and State Senator Clementa Pinckney, were killed at the Emmanuel AME Church. This has led to measures being taken across the state. Now, these attacks have prompted community members here in the Midlands to learn more about possible threats to their churches and how to react to them. News 19's Chuck Ringwald has a story.
We didn't bring you here to scare you. We bring you here because there's a problem.
Robberies, mass shootings, suicide, missing and lost children, sex offenders, and fire, weather, and medical emergencies at churches. These were the topics of discussion as nearly 100 people filled the Newberry County Sheriff's Office.
A lot of churches are completely under attack by active shooters, active threats, and other situations that it was imperative to give people information to equip them to prepare their own plan.
Chief Deputy Todd Johnson led the discussion.
A medical emergency is the most likely event that you're going to face in your church, yet many churches don't have any medical equipment, no first aid kits, no AED devices or anything else. And those are the practical things that we do every Sunday as a worship experience.
Tips included: know the locations of your exits and emergency devices, designate 911 callers, protect your perimeter, and ask people in the neighborhood to be watchful of the church, especially after hours.
There's a lot of things you just take for granted, you know, that goes on. It happens all around us every day, and we just, a lot of things that you think that may not happen is actually happening.
Ron Clark attends Sequel Baptist Church and says he's going to share those security tips with the other members of his church.
I really kind of think we kind of a little slack maybe in our church in that perspective. We try to welcome everybody in our church. You know, like say you want to welcome everybody there, but like say you never think that somebody's going to come in to harm you.
Once a plan is in place, Johnson says to practice it with the hope it will never be used. In Newberry County, Chuck Ringwald, News 19 WLTX.
Although no date has been set, the Newberry County Sheriff's Department plans on having more events like this in the future. And for the very latest on the events unfolding in Texas, you can head over to our website, WLTX.com, or the WLTX app.
Now, the Midland's most accurate forecast with meteorologist Daniel Bonds.
The clouds kind of hung around a little longer than expected, kept our temperatures down as well. Our satellite radar composite over the last 12 hours confirms the clouds and then a little bit of sunshine we saw late in the day, and temperatures did manage to make it into the low 70s for the most part. Right now it is cooling off with temperatures falling into the mid to upper 50s. 56 degrees Columbia, Sumter, 57 degrees in Manning, 55 degrees in Newberry, 54 degrees in Camden. That's the cool spot as of 11 o'clock. But we do expect temperatures to be basically in the mid-50s overnight. Some fog's going to develop, maybe even some dense fog. That fog mixes on out. Mostly sunny skies tomorrow afternoon with high temperatures right around 83 degrees. We'll take a much closer look at your forecast, including the 7-day, coming up in just a few minutes. Kayla?
All right, thanks, Daniel. Richland County deputies are investigating an infant's death. They say they responded to a call on Reynard Court in Irmo around 8 o'clock this morning. Lieutenant Curtis Wilson says they are working to determine if foul play was involved. A South Carolina state senator is facing charges of drunken driving and lying to law officers. The South Carolina Highway Patrol says Senator Paul Campbell and his wife were charged with providing false information to police after Vicki Campbell initially claimed she was driving. The Highway Patrol says the senator was arrested after his car hit another vehicle from behind on I-26. He posted bond of nearly $1,500 and was released on Sunday. The Columbia Police Department is investigating a collision involving a stolen SUV. Officials say it happened around 1:30 this morning at the 5000 block of Middleton Street. They say a 22-year-old was speeding when she drove off the side of the road, overcorrected, and ran off the right side of the road. The vehicle then went airborne and rolled several times. Officials say the driver, who was ejected from the vehicle, and a passenger suffered life-threatening injuries. 2 other passengers have serious injuries. The collision remains under investigation. A cemetery in Columbia that's more than 100 years old now has a designation to back up its history. The Olympia Cemetery Association held a historical marker dedication today. News 19's Lauren Thomas was there and heard from the families of those buried on the grounds.
I have family members going back 3 generations that are buried here.
Dozens of people gathered at the Olympia Cemetery, all awaiting the unveiling of this, a historical marker. In the 1890s, Smith Whaley built the mills surrounding this community.
When people passed away, the mill offered grave sites here to the employees to be interred.
Joby Castine is the chairman of the Olympia Cemetery Association and knows just how important preserving this history will be.
Both my grandfathers on both sides of the family, my aunts, my father, they all worked in the cotton mill for good part of their lives. So I was born and raised here, probably less than a mile from where we're standing now.
His story is similar to that of Donna Spigner-Kynard.
That's my grandmother and my grandfather. We were all raised in this community, and my grandparents, all 4 of my grandparents worked in the mill.
Kynard says her parents were also raised in the mill district and would have loved to have been at the ceremony.
I know Mom and Daddy are looking down, and Daddy's got to be so proud.
It's that pride that runs through the hearts of families who lived in the mill district for decades.
It's important to the sense of community here to remember the past. We need, move forward, but remember the past.
In Columbia, Lauren Thomas, News 19.
This is my home.
WLTX.
The Olympia Mill Cemetery is more than 120 years old and will now be added to South Carolina's list of historical markers. Well, still ahead, it was colder than expected today, but will those cool temperatures hang around? We'll check back in with meteorologist Daniel Bonds when we come back.